This is the Yay or Nay Show with Alex C. A sports show for sports fans by a sports fan. And now, here is Alex C.
Okay, so today we're going to start off with which are the most improved teams after free agency, and of course, other moves that have been made over recent weeks. We'll start off with NFL analyst Bell. He says the Bengals. Now, they might not have made the sexiest moves, but the offensive line was perhaps the main thing that stood between them and a Super Bowl victory. Quarterback Joe Burrow was sacked a league-high 51 times last season. Teams went 16-34 last season when pressured on at least 42% of dropbacks, and the Bengals' Super Bowl loss was among them with 42.9%. Now, the addition of right tackle Lael Collins, Burrow's new self-proclaimed bodyguard, and interior linemen Ted Karras and Alex Kappa might be just what's needed to put them over the top in 2022. Now, NFL analyst Bowen says it's the Bills that are the most improved. Now, the Bills added a game changer in pass rusher Von Miller, while defensive tackles Tim Settle and Daquan Jones bolster the interior of the front. Buffalo upgraded the defensive line here to keep the AFC's top quarterbacks in check and make a Super Bowl run. NFL analyst Clay says it's the Chargers, and a lot of people are saying the Chargers. And before I move on to the Chargers, let me just say, I disagree with Von Miller being a big deal going to the Bills. I really disagree. Von Miller is a shell of himself. He was last year. It was because of all the other players that were surrounding him that made him look better than he was. So I disagree that Von Miller going to the Bills is a very big deal. I also disagree with what everybody's saying about the LA Chargers, but I will get into that in future podcasts. For now, we'll just go with what the NFL analysts say. So again, Chargers most improved, and there are plenty of good options here, but I'll give the nod to the Chargers for their success in surrounding young quarterback Justin Herbert, the most overrated quarterback in the NFL, with a much better supporting cast. Cornerback J.C. Jackson and edge rusher Khalil Mack are among the best in the league at their respective positions. Khalil Mack, really? What noise has he made? Los Angeles' run defense was atrocious last season, so defensive tackles Sebastian Joseph Day and Austin Johnson were much-needed improvements up front. Re-signing receiver Mike Williams and adding tight end Gerald Everett helped the cause on the offensive line. NFL analyst Cockcroft, I believe that's how you say it, says the Chargers also are the most improved. His reasons are they rolled on offense in 2021, but were severely lacking on defense, having surrendered the 10th most yards and 4th most points. It was probably the primary reason they just missed the playoffs, but the Chargers have done quite a good job upgrading that area. With the addition of Mack, Jackson, Joseph Day, and Johnson, and re-signing Williams and keeping the offensive parts in place certainly helps too. Let's see. NFL analyst Fowler says the Raiders are the most improved. A team on the cusp just added the necessary players to make a serious run. The Devontae Adams trade elevates the entire offense, and Chandler Jones is a Hall of Fame level edge rusher, with Jones taking Yannick Ngakoku's spot opposite Max Crosby. The Raiders flipped Ngakoku for Rock Ya-Sin, an intriguing 25-year-old corner with untapped potential. The Raiders got a lot better, and the AFC West will notice. Now, about addressing that offensive line. Look, before I get into NFL analyst Graziano and the Jaguars, let me just say, I don't know where they get the idea that the Raiders were on the cusp. On the cusp of what? They were Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. They were more Hyde than they were anything else. I don't get it. I don't know what they see. Again, a lot of times I think these analysts make the team sound like they were a lot better than they actually were, because the Raiders were not a threat in any way, shape, or form. They weren't anybody that you had to worry about. Yes, they've made some improvements, Chandler Jones being one of them. Devontae Adams, I'm not sold on him, to be honest. He has to have a lot surrounding him to make him better. He has to have a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers to make him better. I got a feeling you're going to see a regression in regards to Devontae Adams, but time will tell. Again, but the Raiders on the cusp, I don't understand that remark at all. On the cusp of what? Okay, NFL analyst Graziano says the Jaguars most improved. You can argue with some, if not all, of the contracts, but You can't say the Jaguars aren't working to get better in free agency. They landed a top guard in Brandon Scherf, a starting cornerback in Darius Williams, and two key defenders who drew interest from other teams in linebacker Forsaid Olakon and defensive tackle Folorunzo Fadukasi. Sorry, I can't pronounce all the names here. I don't know exactly how the pass catcher situation shakes out with new guys Christian Kirk, bad move, Zay Jones, and Evan Ingram in the mix, but the receivers they had last year weren't lighting the world on fire. Plus, factor in a dramatic upgrade as head coach. I don't think the Jags are ready to compete with all of those AFC heavyweights, but after a 3-14 mess, I expect them to be at least a lot better than they were. Offensively, I think they're going to be the same team they've always been. Defensively, they might look a little bit better. I don't see any improvements on offense. Again, Christian Kirk, he's not a number one or even a number two receiver. He's a number three at best. He's speedy. He doesn't have great hands, makes a lot of mistakes. His route running is questionable. Evan Ingram, question mark. Zay Jones, never heard of him. I'm not convinced that the Jaguars have done that much in the improvement, other than you could say that they had coaching, but I didn't have a problem with the previous head coach. Everybody, for political reasons, decided they were universally going to be against the head coach of the Jaguars. NFL analyst Moody, he's also claiming the Bengals are the most improved. He says, again, they added offensive linemen Collins, Karras, and Kappa to the help protect their franchise quarterback. And considering the other offensive playmakers on the Bengals roster, tight end Hayden Hurst on a one-year deal will be a mismatch for opponents. NFL analyst Miller says it's the Broncos. The trade for quarterback Russell Wilson will receive the most attention, and rightfully so, but adding to an already impressive defense by signing edge rusher Randy Gregory and defensive tackle DJ Jones could make the Broncos a legitimate AFC West contender. DJ Jones, I can absolutely agree with. Randy Gregory, look, the guy, A, can't stay healthy. B, he only looks good against below 500 ball clubs. Against above 500 ball clubs, just like the Dallas Cowboys, Randy Gregory is not much of a performer. Russell Wilson, a serious upgrade. He's going to make people around him better. But I got a lot of question marks about that offensive line, and I don't know anything, and I don't think anybody does really, about the head coaching staff. NFL analyst Reed says the Chargers are the most improved. Having a quarterback on a rookie deal, as the Chargers do with Herbert, is a big roster-building asset. It helped them sign Williams to an extension, but their most impressive moves mostly came on defense. Trading for Mack and signing Joseph Day and Jackson provided upgrades in key spots. The AFC West is going to be a battle week in and week out, and the Chargers have improved significantly on the defensive side to help complement an explosive offense led by their ascending star under center. NFL analyst Seifert says it's the Baltimore Ravens. I thought about the Browns, but wondered how much quarterback Deshaun Wilson will impact them, considering he could serve a suspension. Watson, not Wilson, sorry. The Broncos made the Wilson deal. They do say Wilson. Play in the toughest division in football. The Ravens, meanwhile, have addressed big needs with good players, safety Marcus Williams and right tackle Morgan Moses, among others, and should be right back in the AFC North mix this season. Again, depending on how healthy they will be. Depending on how healthy they will be. And my apologies for what I said earlier. The Broncos and they were talking about Russell Wilson. I don't know what's going on with my mind right now. Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson. I get a little confused sometimes. My apologies. All right. NFL analyst Tannenbaum says the Cleveland Browns are the most improved. Now, the dramatic upgrade at quarterback overshadows everything else. Watson gives them a chance to meaningfully compete for the Super Bowl each year that he stays healthy. An improvement at receiver with Amari Cooper replacing Jarvis Landry. I disagree. Jarvis is better than Amari. Makes Cleveland's offense even more difficult to stop, considering that it already has playmakers around Watson and Cooper in tight end David Njoku, running back Nick Chubb, and running back Kareem Hunt. NFL analyst Walder says the Broncos are the most improved team. The upgrade from Teddy Bridgewater to Drew Lock to Wilson outpaces any gains made by other teams and instantly transformed Denver from a non-contender to a contender. I don't think they're a contender. I don't know where he gets that idea from, that they've got a shot at making the playoffs, but A contender? Hardly even close. NFL analyst Yates says the Broncos, again, are improved. The additions of Gregory and Jones help fortify an already rock-solid defense from front seven. But the trade for Wilson is what cements Denver as the pick here. No team has been the subject of more, if only they had a quarterback conversations, than the Broncos. They should feel confident they now have one who can lead them to a Super Bowl. They don't have the rest of the roster. Again, the Broncos never had a roster. I don't know what everybody was seeing, what everybody was talking about. Maybe it was just safe to make the comment because they knew they didn't have a quarterback and they could just say that's the reason why this roster wasn't performing that well. And there wasn't anybody on the Broncos that was making a name for themselves or doing anything significant or special. Again, I just think this is one of those times where they make comments because they know nobody can dispute it because they don't have a quarterback, and they can just simply say, oh, well, it's the quarterback. That's the reason why nobody else is shining. There's nobody on the Broncos that became a household name. Other than Von Miller, there was nobody on the Denver Broncos that made themselves a household name. All right. Flipping over to Major League Baseball really quickly, MLB umpires are going to announce replay review decisions to fans. They're now equipped with on-field microphones to inform the crowd and television audience of replay reviews, beginning with exhibition games at stadiums and then moving it into the regular season. Now, the crew chiefs will wear a microphone via a belt jack and will proceed to one of the baselines when a replay is initiated and face the press box and make the announcement. They'll announce who's making the challenge, what is being challenged, and then, after the review is completed, announce the verdict and give a quick explanation. Until now, umpires had revealed their decisions, such as safe and out, with a hand signal. So MLB, again, making another shift towards what the NFL does, getting a little more involved with the crowd, a little more involved with the TV audience, trying to make it to where it's more of an experience versus silent man's game. That's the way I've always called baseball. I love baseball, but it's kind of a silent man's game. Flipping over to the NBA really quickly, Phoenix Suns guard Chris Paul continues to ascend the NBA all-time steals list, moving into fourth place after notching 3 steals Friday night against the Memphis Grizzlies in a losing cause, unfortunately. He surpassed former point guard and Basketball Hall of Famer Gary Payton. Since being drafted in 2005, Paul has had a knack for taking the ball away. He's averaged 2 or more steals per game in 10 of his 17 years in the NBA. He's also led the league in steals 6 times in his career. His exceptional defense and offensive prowess have been vital to the Suns' success this year as they have the top seed in the Western Conference. Now that Paul is 4th on the all-time steals list, how far away is he from becoming number 1? He might have to pick up the pace if he hopes to be first on that list before he retires. John Stockton, by the way, holds the number 1 position with 3,265 steals. Jason Kidd is number 2 with 2,684. And Michael Jordan, number 3, with 2,514 steals. All right, now flipping back to the NFL really quickly. Frank Gore, former San Francisco 49er, went on to play with Indianapolis, is going to be retiring. He said he plans to sign a one-day contract with the San Francisco 49ers and retire as a member of the team that drafted him. We're still trying to figure out when I'm going to do my one-day contract to sign, do my retirement. Gore said during an Instagram live interview hosted by Bovada, he offered a timeline of a couple of months for it to take place. Gore, who is now 38, said he hopes to work in the Niners front office. I love looking at talent. I love evaluating talent, and I love ball. And they, the 49ers, know that I know football players, what it's supposed to take to be a football player. Gore was a 3rd-round pick of the 49ers out of Miami in the 2005 draft, and he played the first 10 years of his career in San Francisco before stops in Indianapolis, Miami, Buffalo, and with the Jets. He did not play for a team last season. Gore had 9 1,000-yard rushing seasons and has played in more games than any other player in the NFL history with 241. His 16,000 rushing yards ranks 3rd all-time behind Hall of Famers Emmitt Smith and Walter Payton. He is 4th all-time in yards from scrimmage at 19,985 and 5th all-time in all-purpose yards at 19,992. Gore finishes his career with exactly 100 total touchdowns. All right, everybody. I'm out of time, but I wish I had more because I do have a lot more to go over with you. But as you know, tonight is the championship game. North Carolina, Kansas, NCAA. Let me say this really quickly about that, actually. It's not really about tonight's game as much as it is about the nonsense that's been made about the Duke North Carolina game. First and foremost, all weekend long, and really for quite a few days before the weekend, all you heard was the national media talk about how it was going to be the biggest game in college basketball history, Duke, North Carolina, because North Carolina, at the last game that Mike Krzyzewski was going to coach at home, beat Duke. And after beating Duke, they now are going to meet for the first time in the NCAA tournament. After all these years of coaching, Mike Krzyzewski, for the first time, was going to meet up with North Carolina for the first time ever in the tournament. And that was supposed to be, according to, these analysts, supposedly it was going to be the biggest game in college history. Now, here's the problem with that statement, first and foremost. Number one, was it a great game? Let's give props. It was a great game. I watched it. I understand it got great ratings. And, of course, it was a great game. Absolutely, without a doubt, unequivocally, nobody could say that it wasn't a great game. I would never, ever, ever say that it wasn't a great game. And I would agree that and argue that most fans of basketball, NBA or college alike, would tell you that if they watched that game, even if they watched the highlights of that game, they would have seen that either they watched a great game or they missed a great game between Duke and North Carolina. So it absolutely was a great game. The problem with the statement is this. The problem is to say that a game is going to be the biggest in history, you don't know that until after the game has happened. And I could easily make the argument that the game between Magic Johnson and Larry Bird was way bigger in 1979. That game was way bigger than the game that just took place. It was way bigger. It was a lot more exciting. No doubt about it. That is probably the number one college basketball game in history, not this Duke North Carolina game. So I don't know where these guys got the idea. It's a big deal. You have a coach that's retiring. Most people who are basketball fans, whether it be NBA or college fans, first and foremost, outside of his name because he's been around so long, he wasn't that big of a deal to the fans unless you were a Duke fan or unless maybe you lived in North Carolina. I mean, yes, he had a lot of respect. USA men's coach. Absolutely, he got a lot of respect. He was well respected among coaches, general managers, athletic directors in college. He was well respected. Absolutely, without a doubt, unequivocally, everybody seemed to enjoy and love the guy and dislike him for a variety of reasons as well. A lot of people like to use him as the villain because, every sport needs to have a villain. I understand those things. But he's not that big of a deal. The fact that he was retiring is not like Michael Jordan saying, this is my final year, let's watch all those games. Kobe Bryant, it's my final year, let's watch all those games. Shaquille O'Neal's retiring, let's watch all those games. Mike Krzyzewski is like way down here compared to any of those guys that I just mentioned. And I can go on and on and on with lists of players that could say that they're retiring in 1 year. Tom Brady, another one that'll be elevated way above Mike Krzyzewski. And those guys are super household names. Those guys are name brand recognizable names. Krzyzewski, name brand, and if you're a fan, you know of them. But do you love them like you love one of the players I just mentioned? No. Do most fans love them like you love any one of the players? Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Julius Erving, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Tim Duncan. I mean, the list goes on and on and on, right? Do you as fans love Mike Krzyzewski like you love any of the players that I just mentioned? Absolutely not. He's in the tier of the top, 1-200 maybe. He gets in there, but it's not a big deal. America's not on their seats going, oh my God, Mike Krzyzewski's going to retire. No, they're not. But again, this is the national media because it's the narrative they want to push. It's the narrative they want you to believe. So they're going to try and sell you on the fact that Mike Krzyzewski retiring is like the biggest deal in the world when it's not, is crazy. Because again, you can clearly see that America was not hanging on the edge of their seat saying, oh my goodness, I hope tonight's not Mike Krzyzewski's last game. Oh, no. Yes, he was bigger than the program at Duke. Yes, absolutely he was. Yes, he's the reason why the program was as big as it was. Yes, he's the reason why the program was as successful as it was. But also as a fan, you have to realize, and most fans do, because again, fans aren't dumb. Most fans realize that when a great coach leaves, another coach can step right in and keep the program moving right along. University of Arizona's doing it. They're on their third coach since Lute Olson, and they're continuing to be successful. And I can go to football programs and show you the same examples. I can go to the NBA, show you some same examples. Folks, it's just the way that it works. It's just the way that it works. You know, a new coach takes over, and the program could still be the program it always was. I can make the argument, and most people I think would agree right now, that Duke is probably still going to be Duke under their new coach, who also was introduced a year ago, who also has done his introductory tour while Mike Krzyzewski has done his farewell tour. Okay? So when you look at everything that I just told you, Mike Krzyzewski is not the reason why people are on the edge of their seats going, oh, I hope it's not his last game. Oh, I hope he wins the NCAA championship. Oh, it would be so great if he – no. Former players, analysts who think that and sports media guys that think that this was like some kind of great story and, oh, what a great story it would be. And no, they were trying to build a story out of something that was noteworthy. And the story, to some, of course, but to the majority, it's not the big major story. It's a story to people in North Carolina. It's a story to people who went to Duke. Story to people who played for Krzyzewski at Duke. Story to guys who went to the Olympics and played under Mike Krzyzewski. Yes, story. Big story for them. Majority America, do you think USC, UCLA, Arizona State, list goes on and on and on. You think all those fans, all those alumni are worried about what Mike Krzyzewski's doing? If it was that big of a deal, if Mike Krzyzewski was that big of a deal, why was North Carolina so happy and excited just to beat the heck out of him at home and ruin the final game that was going to be played at home for Krzyzewski, and then ruin his shot at going to the NCAA championship by blowing him out of the NCAA tournament? If it was that big of a deal, why weren't the players out there waiting to greet Mike Krzyzewski and shake his hand after both games, the home game and the game that they just won? Krzyzewski is not that big of a deal to America. North Carolina, and a lot of people try to say, oh, well, they were being disrespectful. They were disrespecting Krzyzewski. They shouldn't have been that way. They weren't disrespecting. He's not that big of a deal to anybody outside of Duke. He's not. So the former players, great. To the people who are in the sports media world that idolize and love him, great. He was a big deal to you. Cool, because he gave you a lot of stories and a lot of things to talk about. Great. Understand. But the fans, to everybody around the world, outside of Duke, outside of that very, 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 very super small snippet piece of America, not that big of a deal. Noteworthy, yes. His name, because it's been repeated so many times, is a name you know. But is he a guy America loves? No, he's not. Certain small percentage players, again, sports media guys that love him, sure. America, sports fans, is he the biggest thing since sliced bread? I could make the argument Jerry Jones, owner of the Dallas Cowboys, is loved by more people in America than Mike Krzyzewski all day, every day. And he's an owner. He's not a coach. Calls himself a general manager. That's up for debate. That's a different conversation. But the bottom line is, I could make the argument that Jerry Jones is more beloved in America, throughout America, across America, than Mike Krzyzewski. Guaranteed. No doubt about it. I don't think there's anybody who can dispute what I just said. So for the sports media to try and make it seem like, oh, this was the biggest thing since sliced bread, and this was the ultimate, most important game in the world, and you got to be sitting on the edge of your seat hoping good things for Coach K. Nobody cares. There's tons of people, and I've seen all the blogs, social media posts where everybody's saying, I don't like the guy. He's overhyped. He's over-talked about. That's all you hear about. You hear more about him than the program and the players, and all that's true. And if people resent him for that fact, especially if you got players who their name isn't even well known, but their coach's name is known 20 times more than their name, yeah, there's kind of a problem with that, folks. There is. But it's partly the player's fault for sticking around for one and done and leaving. But at the same time, Krzyzewski's made it more about him than the actual program. There's no doubt in my mind. Now, I don't know that that's a bad thing because the guy's so highly successful. So I got to give him all the accolades in the world for being as successful as he's been. I got to give him all the accolades in the world for Krzyzewski having the season that he had this year. And his team grew up. We watched them grow up from the beatdown that they took at their final home game against North Carolina all the way up until this last game that they just played against North Carolina, even though it was a losing effort. They grew up. You watched them grow up. You watched them grow. And they did a great job. And Krzyzewski did a great job. And he arguably is one of the greatest coaches of college basketball of all time. Absolutely. You could put him in that conversation. But acting as if, that Duke North Carolina game was the biggest game in NCAA men's basketball history? No, it wasn't. No. Maybe you can put it in the top 10. I mean, it's not like anybody really goes and makes a major list out of college basketball. And there's the gist of it. The gist of it is it's not like fans really sit around and talk about what the greatest NCAA men's basketball games were. No. They talk about NBA, NFL, MLB, World Series. They talk about those, the greatest of all time, what is, who isn't, who was the greatest players of all time. They do that all day. They don't do that with men's basketball in college. Talk about who the greatest player of all time was in college. Talk about who the greatest college program. No, that's what alumni and former players and students do. That's what they do. It's not what America does. It's not what sports fans do. So to make those blasphemous statements about it's the biggest game in NCAA men's basketball history, no, it's not. The game happening tonight is bigger than that one because tonight decides a title. This game tonight is way bigger than Duke, North Carolina, because tonight's game decides a title. That game meant nothing. That was just a qualifier. So I don't know where these guys get the idea that that was the biggest game in men's basketball history. If that's the case, we wouldn't be having tonight's game, and there wouldn't be a national title on the line in tonight's game. So I don't know where these guys get the idea that that was the biggest game in NCAA men's basketball history. Again, most fans don't even talk like that, don't even think like that. These sports media guys make up stuff so they have something to talk about. Even though it's a little outlandish, it's a little, left field, they'll throw it out there and they'll try and sell you and make you believe something, even though it's not true, because they need something to fill their 3 or 4 hours with. Again, I think most of these guys have a show that's way too long, and they end up making statements like this that aren't true in any way, shape, or form, but they do it so they can fill their 3 or 4 hours. I think really what these PDs at these sports talk shows should be doing and sports talk networks should be doing is shortening these guys' shows. That's what I think they honestly should be doing, because they got these guys repeating the same stuff over and over and over and over, regurgitating the same story. Talk about it on Monday, talk about it again on Wednesday. This is not the biggest men's basketball game in NCAA men's basketball history. Absolutely is not. And there were so many other statements that were made about this game and about these teams and about all this stuff. And a lot of it was just a hype and a lot of stuff that just doesn't even hold water. It's amazing. I got so many other things I could say about this game. I got so many other things I could say about what the sports media was trying to make you believe about this game and all that stuff. But fans, nobody sits around, I guarantee you, at a bar or a sports bar or a nightclub and talks about who the greatest NCAA men's basketball program in America is of all time and who the greatest player in college history has been and who the greatest coach in college basketball has ever been. Nobody talks like that. NFL, yes. Major League Baseball, yes. NBA, absolutely. NCAA men's basketball? Come on, who be kidding? All right, that's going to do it for today's show. Enjoy the rest of your day, evening. We'll do it again tomorrow.